Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mary. I am so excited for this video. If you've been following along on these last couple of videos, we have been going through a declutter series and we are on the last video. Hello, Present Mary here, giving you guys a fresh intro. I thought I would jump in on this video for two reasons. First one being these videos have taken me so long to get through that intro is like 8 months old, so some time has gone by. So I thought I'd give you my fresh face here, but mostly because I did decide to split this eyeshadow declutter into 2 parts. So I thought I'd let you guys know at the beginning here, so that it wouldn't be too long. It's definitely still a long video, but thought I would split it up for you guys. So here's part 1 of our eyeshadow declutter, and I hope you guys enjoy it. As usual with all my videos, if you guys enjoy makeup related content, I would love for you guys to check out the channel. Feel free to subscribe. Introduce yourself down below, say hello, and yeah, let's get into this declutter. Alrighty, so all set up here, just like we've been doing all of the other declutters in this series here so far. You're going to be seeing my hands, but this is the eyeshadow drawer. It is jam-packed. This is the heaviest drawer. So this is probably going to be the longest for me to get through here, and probably the hardest for me to get through and getting rid of stuff, but I'm really hoping to try and condense and only hang on to the stuff that's useful. Maybe try to get rid of eyeshadows, you know, if I have some that are similar than others. And then what I also like to sometimes do is if I have a palette that only has like select eyeshadows from it, consider like doing some depotting. Like I've got a palette in here. Is it this one? I've got a palette of like depotted eyeshadows, which is something I want to do a little bit more of. I mentioned it in a couple of the previous videos, but a goal and kind of a mindset of mine is to kind of think makeup kit, and hold on to stuff that could be good for a kit. And so part of that could potentially be depotting some of these eyeshadows. If that is something that you guys are interested in, let me know. And if, depending on what we hang on to here for eyeshadows, maybe I can create another video of us going through that depotting process and putting things into magnetic palettes, because it is something I'm very interested in and very excited about. But like we've been doing with all of the other declutters here like we have been doing with all of the other declutters here as well, I want to swatch everything out on my arm for you. So with eyeshadows, that's gonna take some time. But I'm gonna do my best to put in clips showing you guys the eyeshadows and everything swatched out, and just think through it here with you guys as we go through each individual eyeshadow. I don't know the easiest way to start diving into this bin. With the previous ones, I was like starting with just like pulling out the obvious yes palettes, but because there's so, excuse me, because there's so much in here, I'm probably just gonna kind of pull at random. I'm going to insert a video here of all of the current eyeshadows in here laid out so you can see all the colors. This is something I love doing with my eyeshadows, is just showing off all the colors and creating this like little mural with them or whatever. And then hopefully what I can do is after I've gone through these, I can do that again and we can see hopefully a significant difference or a decrease in the amount of eyeshadows that I have for that. So I'm gonna stop babbling here. Let's look at some eyeshadows. Because I pulled it out here, let's just start with one of these guys. So this is a magnet palette of individual shadows that I've pulled from a bunch of other eyeshadow palettes. So this is just a whole mix of stuff. Here's what this looks like. Okay. So here is that first palette all swatched out for you. So this magnetic palette consists of all of like my metallic and kind of glitter individuals. I love this palette. I love everything that's in here. Yeah, definitely not gonna get rid of this one. It's already full, so if I do end up depotting any others of here, I do need to invest in maybe another magnetic palette. So I will be keeping this. I mentioned it in all the other declutters that I've done as well, but I've got an alley bag set up here for the products that I'm keeping, and then a separate alley bag here for the products that I plan to get rid of. And then we'll probably set a couple off to the side here as we go if I need to like circle back on them. Cross our fingers that we get rid of a couple. But we will be keeping that magnetic one. Let me just peek in here real quick because I don't know. Yeah, so this is an empty one. This is the Saints. I ended up getting rid of most of the Saint makeup that I had, but I kept the magnetic palette. So there's nothing in here really to swatch. It's just an empty palette. I'm gonna just set that off behind here for now. Alrighty, so next up right on the top here is this Pacifica palette. Pacifica, they're magical eyeshadows. They have a couple, I think 2 others that are like this that I think are so cool. This one I like a lot. I'm definitely interested in the other palettes that they have. If you saw my setting sprays declutter, this is the black eyeshadow that I used for testing those setting sprays. Oh, I mean, if you guys haven't seen that video, I recommend you checking that one out. That one was so fun to record. But let's take a second here to swatch this one out. So here is that one all swatched out. Oh, here's that one all swatched out. Barely fit on my arm here. I love this eyeshadow palette. It's fun to swatch this out because like you start to really notice like this top of the eyeshadow starts kind of warm and then it kind of gradually makes it into these really fun, cool colors. Some of the mattes at the top don't necessarily swatch very well, but for the most part, a lot of the mattes have like, they're not like a full matte. They've kind of got like a creamy satin feel to them. I like the undertones of a lot of the browns in here. They're definitely not too warm. So I really, really like that. This is definitely an eyeshadow that I love using. So definitely gonna be keeping this one. Let's try to bounce a little back and forth. Do a couple big, do a couple small. I think what I can do with some of the small ones here is I can swatch a couple at the same time. So let me do this actually. So I've got this Physicians Formula eyeshadow. This is their Butter Believe It eyeshadow. And then I always compare it to this mini that I have. I've got this Natasha Denona. I have the Natasha Denona mini. This is their mini retro palette. And when opening them up here, they're not like exactly the same, but some of the shadows are definitely similar. So I'm gonna swatch these two side by side. So there are those 2 eyeshadow palettes swatched. This one right here is the Physicians Formula, and the one near the front here is Natasha Denona. And so as I was kind of saying, like they're not exactly the same, but I find myself often when I'm traveling or going places that these are the 2 eyeshadows that I grab, mostly because they're small, but then secondly, they do just work well with each other. Usually I'll end up taking the Physicians Formula and at least using it with the browns to set up the eyeshadow look, and then maybe take a metallic or 2, but I always end with at least a Natasha Denona eyeshadow metallic because they are just so stunning. So I wanted to put them side by side to see if there were any more like obvious similarities, but looking at them here, they are definitely different from each other. So I will be continuing to hang on to both of these. Let's just stick with Natasha Denona for a little bit here because I've got 2 more down here. And we'll go ahead and swatch those. So I've got, this is their 5 eyeshadow palette. This is in Peak. And then I've got another one here, a 5 eyeshadow palette in Jubilee, I believe is how it's pronounced. I definitely get more use out of this one, the Peak one, versus this one. But, ooh, something I meant to mention too. With Natasha Denona and ColourPop, we'll get to it here, their pans are magnetic. So something I am considering is that if I ever wanted to, like if there's, maybe I don't get much use out of this pink, but I want to keep for sure this color or these really fun metallics in here, I can depot this if I want to and put it into another palette and hold on to the ones that I definitely want. And same with this one, if for any reason, or if I just wanted to combine them all into a bigger palette, I totally could do so. So I think that's super duper cool. But let's go ahead and swatch these ones. Okay, here are these swatches now. So the back one here is that Peak eyeshadow palette. This like rust color here is so fun. Natasha's formula is just so nice and so pigmented. I love their eyeshadows. I don't have a lot of them, but I just have these 3 palettes, but from the use that I've gotten out of them, they're just so nice. So that's the Peak eyeshadow palette. And then this one over here is that Jubilee eyeshadow palette. I love this brown. It's warm. It's a good like neutral where it's kind of cool, kind of warm, kind of pinky. I don't know. It's such a fun transition color. And this deep blue in the pan here, it looks so black, but then when you swatch it, I don't know, it's so pretty. So not getting rid of these anytime soon. So those are staying there. That deep blue from that Jubilee, I'm never gonna say it right, did stain a little bit on my arm there, but that's okay. Let's jump into a bigger palette here again. Let's do this one here. So this one right here, this doesn't technically exist anymore. This is the Photogenic palette by Mateo Beauty. I recorded a video with this. I'll have to remember what it's called, and I'll leave I'll put the title up here for you guys so you can check it out. But she's a smaller, you know, she owns her own brand. And this one is just a very colorful eyeshadow palette. There are little glitters everywhere. I believe also with this, because I have a couple other Mateo eyeshadows in here as well. These pans are also metallic. This is fully glued in, but if I did want to depot this for any reason, these pans are metallic and I could put them in their own magnetized palette if I wanted to. But this is such a fun eyeshadow palette. I'm gonna go ahead and swatch this one for you guys so you can see the pigmentation on it. All right, are you ready for this rainbow? Look at that. So I'm not somebody who often does a bunch of like crazy colorful looks, but I definitely get in those moods sometimes where I'm on Pinterest or going through Instagram and I see these really fun, unique looks. And I love having a colorful eyeshadow on hand for those reasons. I used to have a different colorful eyeshadow palette that I've set aside in kind of like my nostalgia bin just because it's very old and I've had it for a long, long time. So this has definitely replaced that palette. And the eyeshadows, as you can see here, are so beautiful and so pigmented. The eyeshadow that I probably get the most use of out of this palette is this one right here. I'm not sure how well this swatch will show up for you guys on camera, but it's this Positive Vibes glitter topper, and it just has the funnest little glitter shifts in it. Greens, purples, pinks, kind of like a gold. I just love it so much, and it's so fun and so unique. But this is a beautiful palette. Definitely gonna be keeping it. My arm is so glittery now, so ignore that. So then let's go kind of in a not so large palette, just because it kind of came to mind to me when I was kind of doing some of like the more greens and blues in that palette. I've got this one here by, this palette here by Hip Dot. It is their, I think it's their Sen Note palette. I don't even know if this exists anymore or is around. This one's definitely old. It was a hand-me-down palette, but it's got a lot of those blues and stuff. I'm gonna give this one a swatch. Right now, I'm trying to convince myself that I maybe need to get rid of it. But also, like, there's this really fun color here called Tulum that I think would be a nice one to hold on to. So maybe I'll depot it and hold on to just specifics. So let's swatch this one. Let's try not to change my mind too much. So here is this one swatched. And I think I need to set this one aside. I'm definitely convinced to hold on to like this shade right here, Goodness, this like royal blue, Ancient, and again, that deep blue one at the end there, Tulum. The gold is really nice. I'll have to see if I have another similar gold. Most of the mattes I'm not too like gravitated to, except for like this gray here. I don't know if I have anything quite like that gray. So I'm gonna set this one to the side. We might need to circle back and kind of compare to other eyeshadows near the end here. Because I'm convincing myself that there are some eyeshadows in there that I do want to hang on to. Let's do this one here. This is another magnet palette. It's a Mateo Beauty magnetic palette. There are a couple Mateo Beauty shadows in here, but this is again a mix of a couple of different brands as well. I had that one here that is like a lot of like glitters and metallics, and this is just kind of like base neutrals for the time being. I want to go through this one, and then I do have in here a new eyeshadow that I have not used yet that we'll pull out next here. I want to determine if this is necessary or if everything is in this palette here now. So let's do some swatching here. So here are these eyeshadows swatched. Aside from the way that I've got the pattern going in here, I also like the way that the eyeshadows are laid out. The top row is definitely, I mean, it's a very warm leaning mattes, you know, neutrals eyeshadow palette, but the tops are more of your like pinks and reds, and then it kind of darkens up from there. I do like having this eyeshadow just to like have good neutrals and base shades to set up an eyeshadow look. So I'm gonna set this right here just for a little bit. And then I want to take a look at this here. This is the ColourPop's Gone Matte eyeshadow palette. I mentioned it when I did my ColourPop brand new face video because I have another one here of these like large eyeshadow palettes. I am tempted, very tempted to collect the entire range of their larger eyeshadow palettes. So this is the second one that I have. And yeah, we'll see if I end up picking up all the other ones. So here's what it looks like on the inside. I have not dipped into this at all, but I am very curious to see if it makes sense to hold on to both of these, because I can tell, how can I do this? I can tell already like this pink shade and kind of these right here might be very similar. I don't think I have anything quite that deep like that one in there. This has more purples in it. This might even have that gray that's in there. I'm gonna try and swatch this eyeshadow palette on the other arm here so I can look at the swatches side by side and figure it out from there. All right. So here is all of that ColourPop's Gone Matte. Now it's hard to see, but the lightest shades are swatched up here. That first row, which ends right there, is definitely very sheer. They definitely don't swatch very, very well. And then once we got about halfway through the second row, then they started to definitely show up really, really nicely. This is a lot of eyeshadow. So definitely a majority of what is in this Mateo Magnetic palette is in this ColourPop eyeshadow palette as well. Like I feel, okay, so like some of these like deeper red colors, I'll probably end up hanging on to those separately. That might be the bulk of it. I might, oh man, I don't want to get rid of any though. That's the problem. You know what? I'm not gonna get rid of this yet. Just because I like eyeshadow too much. Again, I know a bulk of these are in this ColourPop palette. It's just a lot to think about. Whenever I get to possibly depotting maybe that'll be the time that I actually get rid of the ones that are duplicates that are in here. But again, I know for sure like these more like deep kind of reds here are not necessarily in here. So those would be ones that would keep for sure. But like there are a couple of these like square ones. Most of them are actually from Makeup Geek, which is not a brand anymore, but their formula is so nice. I don't want to get rid of them. So that's really tough for me as well. But I'm going to keep both of them for now, just because I don't want to get rid of them. But then what I also want to take a look at is, because I was mentioning that gray, let me just swatch this gray from this Hip Dot palette again next to these grays. So either like this one, okay, it's darker than that, like this one. It's close, they're not exactly the same, but if for any reason, if I do end up breaking this Hip Dot palette down, I don't necessarily need to hang on to that gray because I've got something pretty darn close to it in here. But I'm still gonna keep this one off to the side. I gotta think about that one a little bit longer. Okay, let's go ahead and just do the other large ColourPop palette. The Your Golden one. This is the one that I have had in my palette or in my collection for quite some time. And this one is a good mix of mattes and metallics. I'm definitely going to be keeping this one, but I'm going to go ahead and swatch this one out for you as well. So here is the Your Golden palette fully swatched out. I love this eyeshadow. It does a similar thing to a lot of the other eyeshadows that we've swatched here so far, where it starts light and it kind of works its way dark. A lot of the lighter eyeshadows are a little bit hard to see swatched, and then I was accidentally distracted by the lawn mowing and the birds outside. Those two right there are the same swatch. I swatched it twice accidentally, but I love the colors in this eyeshadow palette. Definitely not getting rid of this one because this is just too beautiful. Let's step away from some of the larger eyeshadow palettes here for a little bit and step away from ColourPop. There's definitely more ColourPop in here. And let's grab a couple small ones here again. Let's grab this one and this one here. Again, these are very similar-ish looking eyeshadow palettes. This top one here is the Desert Lights palette by, is it Flower? Yes, Flower Beauty, their Desert Lights palette. I think they have another like full metallic one like this, but it might have been a limited edition. I don't quite remember. This is the only one that I have. And then LA Girls, this is their Keep It Playful eyeshadow palette in Playmate. They have a lot of these. Again, this is the only one that I have this. I'm very interested in picking up other shade ranges of these that they have because I love this formula. But let's watch these. These are the metallics are very similar, I believe, in both of these. There are those eyeshadows swatched. The one in the back here is the Desert Lights eyeshadows. I wish this opened up a little bit more. So those back there, fully metallic. I love them. And then obviously they're very similar eyeshadows, but this one has a couple of matte options. This is the LA Girls one. I love this eyeshadow palette. I've even noticed I've got a little bit of a dip going on in this pan right here. Probably not close to any sort of hitting pan on that, but I mean, I think that's probably one of the most dipped into eyeshadows that I might have. That's actually really cool and really exciting. So yeah, hanging on to both of these, even though they're so similar, you'll probably see a lot of like tones and stuff like this. I gravitate towards them. So I can't convince myself to get rid of those yet. I think this is an empty magnet palette too. No, oh, okay. I've got this magnet palette here too. This is the Makeup Geek magnetic palette. This one has a bunch of metallics in it as well, but they're more of like, obviously like deep purples and pinks. So we'll swatch this one up real quick. There is that, this magnetic palette swatched. Clearly I forgot that I even had these. I don't reach for these intense of magnetic, or not magnetic. I don't reach for these intense of like glitter and pigment eyeshadows too often. So I'm kind of debating on getting rid of a good amount of these. For sure, I can't get rid of this one here. This blue here is beautiful. And then the other one that really stands out to me here is this pink one right here. So they're actually these two that are side by side. Everything else in there, like I might, again, because it's Makeup Geek, I don't know that I'll get rid of the other square one right there. But the other ones I'm not like super drawn to necessarily. But those two shades in here, I'm like, I can't let them go. So I'm gonna set this one aside for now, to have to go through at some point. I feel like we've been going for such a long time and we haven't gotten rid of anything yet. Oh, this is so tough. Okay, let's just grab this one here. This is Bella B Cosmetics. This is their Lotus Love eyeshadow palette. This is one that I definitely would consider to depot. Honestly, all the Bella B, or B Bella, I always say it wrong. All of the B Bella eyeshadows that I've had, I typically have found myself to depot them because there's often just a lot of these like very intense mattes in there that I just know I don't really need. That's where a lot of like these circular ones are from Bella B. It's from me taking apart other palettes. So I do really like the metallics in here. So I think if I were to take this apart, I would hang on to most of those, at least like these three probably, and then maybe a couple of the mattes. But I definitely don't need all of these purples and stuff like that. So let me swatch this one up here for you. So here is that B Bella eyeshadow swatched. Honestly, like it's beautiful looking. I just don't use like a lot of like the purples and the mattes and stuff like that. But again, like these like metallics on the side are so pretty. Honestly, I probably have this Sunlight one in another palette or even similar to like this Desert Lights. There's probably something there, but I just love those types of shadows that I think I would for sure hang on to those, maybe even this one. I mean, this one's kind of nice too. I probably have something pretty similar to it. I also kind of really like the muted colors in here. I don't have anything quite like this soft sage color, which is really pretty. And then maybe even this, I think they call it muddy, this muddy shade. I probably have something like that also maybe in another eyeshadow palette, but like those might be the shadows that I hang on to, but a lot of like these purples in the middle and even like these bright pinks, I don't have any need for them. So I'm gonna set this one off to the side as well. Let's grab this one here now. This one is by Catrice Cosmetics. It's their Insta Bay eyeshadow palette. I'm pretty sure this is not around anymore, but Catrice does have a couple similar ones still. There's hairs all over it, but this is a favorite of mine. So here is what this one looks like. My battery's gonna die here shortly. Here's what this one looks like. I love the gold in here. So let me get this one swatched up for you. Alrighty, so switched out my battery here. And while I was swatching this Catrice palette, I also swatched a smaller one here as well. But here is the Catrice eyeshadow swatched. I mean, this is the perfect eyeshadow. Like this is a Mary eyeshadow palette. Like I don't know how to put it into words, but it's everything I need. The mattes are simple, they're nice and pigmented. for setting up your base. This like red color here, filter, is beautiful. It has a couple of these more like deep smoky colors, which I think is beautiful. And this is just the most perfect, simple eyeshadow palette. And I'm sad that it's no longer around. And if it is, and you guys see it on shelves and it's actually available, I recommend you getting your hands on it. Because this one is just, this is too good. This is such a good size eyeshadow palette, good shades. I love it. Love this eyeshadow palette. And then the other small one I decided to swatch alongside of it here is this Undone one. And I was convinced that I was like, you know, I should just let it go. But then I swatched it and I can't let it go. I love how deep this blue here is. It's so pretty. I love how vibrant that is. And again, I probably have similar shades like these in other palettes, but they're just too pretty. And I can't let it go. So that's being kept too. I'm hoping this next, well, I don't know. I'm really hoping this next one I grab is a good one that I will consider to get rid of. Next up, we have by Hard Candy. It is their Smoked Out eyeshadow palette. This is one I've talked about in a couple of videos of really, really liking, being that it's greens, and I love every single time I use it. I don't know why, but I'm convinced that I'm gonna be getting rid of this one this time around. And we will see how I feel after I swatch. Maybe even also, just like everything I've set aside here, maybe I'll end up depotting it. Maybe I'll just hold on to like specific eyeshadows. Like I love it, but for some reason, greens really mess with my mind. Is when I use green eyeshadows, I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to use this eyeshadow palette more often. I need to use these greens more often. And then I end up not. So we'll see. My brain is very back and forth on this one. There is this one all swatched up. This shade here I could maybe swatch, but it's basically, it broke. There's like a little bit in there. Yeah, I get enough to swatch. That's actually really bright out. Oh my goodness. So that broken one is like at the end there. So, I think this is one that I would end up depotting. Some of these shades, like more on the bottom, I'm not as intrigued by. I definitely have other more metallics and other eyeshadows that I am more gravitated towards, but I don't have anything quite like this green. I really like this shade, these two shades. This one's pretty cool too. So I think I might end up just holding on to some of these really unique shades. I'm not really interested in like the chunky glitters. They're not the best formula for glitters. The brown is very interesting. To put a brown like that on the eye, it'd be kind of cool, but it's just a little different. So I think this is one that I would end up depotting and just hanging on to those specifics that I really, really like. So setting that one off to the side. Okay, let's go into a bigger eyeshadow palette here again. The next one in the back here is this one by Tati Beauty. Sadly, this brand is not around anymore. So parts of me have like considered putting this in like my little nostalgia bin, but it's not by any means like old or expired. So I don't think it makes sense to do that. I should really get a whole lot more use out of it before I decide to like put it in a little keepsake pile. This brand, the, I don't know the words. The like mother brand, I guess, is the same as like ColourPop. And so they have the same like metallic base or magnetic base. So these are also magnetic pans that if I ever wanted to for any reason, I can pop these ones out as well, which I think is so cool. But let's go ahead and swatch this palette. It is a phenomenal palette. Alrighty, here is the Tati Beauty eyeshadow. Here is the Tati Beauty eyeshadows swatched. Like, This can't be beat. This is too good of a palette, and I am so sad that so many more people didn't get to experience this palette. I don't think I'll ever get rid of this. I mean, this sequin shade here, like, that is... Don't fall, please. Don't fall, please. There you go. That is right here. Like, those shades and then going into the mattes swatch so extremely well. And then the glitters are some of the best glitters ever. It's such a unique and such a special palette. Like, I can't rave about it enough. I, again, will probably never get rid of this one. It is way too good. Let's go into a couple small ones here again. Let's do these guys. I've got these 4 here from ColourPop. They're the Animal Crossing collection. I am obsessed with Animal Crossing, so these make me so happy. Let's swatch these up. I am considering possibly depotting these ones and putting them into a magnet palette just because they are so small, and I think they would just be stored better if they were in a larger palette. Here are all those swatched. Like, how fun is this? So over here we've got this one. This is the Nook Ink palette. I probably would not get rid of any of these ones. I think they're just so unique and so fun. Then after that we've got the 5-Star Island shadows. That last one there, right here, Resident Rep, is so cute and so fun. The matte pink, I mean, it's a great pigmented pink. I don't think I'd necessarily need that one. And then the Isabelle shade, I've got a couple that are kind of like that too, so I'm kind of iffy on that, but like the Resident Rep out of this one for sure stands out the most. Then we've got the La Belle of the Ball. This one's very cute. I don't use a lot of purples. I mentioned that a couple of times. But this custom design shade right there, custom design, is very cute. The matte is probably the one I'm the least interested in, but it's very nice, very pigmented. And then the last one here is our neutrals. It is What a Hoot. Most of those shades I like a lot, especially the All Flutter shade right there. So I'll have to kind of go through these individually. Again, I'll probably end up taking these out of here and just holding on to the glitters, a couple of the like satin shades and whatnot, and putting them all just in a magnetic palette. Let's do 2 of them here together again. I've got this one here by Winky Lux. It is their Cashmere Kitten palette. This is a very fun, like, cool toned palette. And then I think this is also kind of cool tone. They're sort of similar. This is by, I believe, Belle and Argent. Their Nude Intuitive Vision palette. Also kind of more cool toned. I've used this one often as like for brows, like kind of like these shades here are kind of nice for like a brow powder. But let's swatch these ones up and see what we think. So here are these ones swatched. This one right here is the Winky Lux palette. How cute is that? It's so pretty. And then we have this one. It was the Belle and Argent. This one right here. I don't get enough use out of this one. I always kind of forget about it, but this one kind of makes me feel similar to the Catrice one, where it's just such a really good, simple eyeshadow palette. Like, the matte tones in it are really nice, really neutral. It leans cool, but like, just good, simple matte eyeshadows to set up your base. And then just really, really pretty shimmers for toppers. So it's so simple, but this is definitely a keeper. Yeah, I love this eyeshadow. Again, I don't know if this is around. I'm not too familiar with this Belle and Argent brand. This was given to me in like a subscription box. But this is honestly really, really pretty. So if you can get your hands on this one, this is I would recommend this one as well for like a very simple everyday eyeshadow palette. For the Winky Lux one, I want to keep it. I really, really do. But I took a look at that Gone Matte ColourPop eyeshadow palette, and most of the mattes in there from here are also in there. I'm having a hard time with these eyeshadows, man. I don't want to get rid of anything. I'm going to put it in the maybe pile here for now, but I'm going to try to convince myself to get rid of that one, but I'm not there yet. Let's do another big one. This is the Tartelette Full Bloom eyeshadow palette. This was a limited edition, and sadly is also an eyeshadow palette that I just love. I mean, I made a reel a couple months back with my favorites, and there's a trend. First off, tones, very, very similar. Which was like the LA Girls, it was the Desert Lights, I believe. We had the Catrice palette in there. We had the Tarte palette in there, and this one. So like the tones of all of them, pretty darn similar. There's another one in here too that I put in that favorites. But a good chunk of them were limited edition, or no longer available, and that's so sad to me. Why do all the good things go away? But this is a beautiful eyeshadow palette, so let me swatch it up for you. Okie dokie. Here is this Tartelette Full Bloom eyeshadow palette swatched. Honestly, they're not the most intense swatches. It's a very like light palette. It gets a little bit darker near the bottom, but I still really, 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 really love this eyeshadow palette. It just makes me so happy. Very sad that it was a limited edition, but I can't get rid of it. I'm definitely keeping that one. Let's do this guy here. This is Marc Jacobs. Marc Jacobs is not around anymore. This was their, I think it was Electric Trick eyeshadow palette. I used this in a video somewhat recently. No, not too recently. I used this in a video where I recreated a look by Ileana. I'll put up her name here so you guys can see, but I did one of her looks using this, and it was so, so pretty. Again, this brand is not around anymore. Let's swatch this. Let's see how we feel. So here's that one fully swatched out. I don't think I can get rid of this. I think I'm gonna depot it. These pigments on these are so, so nice. There's a chance these colors are probably also even in my Gone Mattes, and these pans are actually like almost the same size as that, which is kind of cool. So I'll have to compare those when I depot this. The formula on these is probably much nicer than the ColourPop, but also this isn't around anymore. But these metallics over here are beautiful. I might end up getting rid of the black. I do think I have a couple more deeply pigmented blacks in this one, and I learned, because when I was going through all of my pans and trying to figure out which ones were and were not magnetic, there are definitely like little magnetic bits in this black, which is not a deal breaker for me, but just a very interesting thing to learn, that the pigments really clinged on to the magnet when I was trying to check it. And some people aren't the biggest fan of that. Again, I don't mind too much, but just an interesting thing to kind of keep an eye out on some of your eyeshadows and some of the ingredients that might be in them. But yeah, I love these three here for sure, and I'm gonna keep this, but I'm gonna set it aside because of wanting to potentially depot it. Let's do this one right here. So this is by Laura Lee. It is their Nudie number 2 palette, the second addition to the Nudie Patootie. And this thing is beautiful. Look at that beauty. Don't think I'm gonna get rid of this one, but just like we're doing for all of them, I will go ahead and swatch this one up for you. So here is Nudie 2 fully swatched out. It's so pretty. Very similar to a lot of the other eyeshadows that I really, really like. I love the glitter shades in here, Nudie and Cheeky. Those are super duper pretty. And then even the like more metallics, they're not as like, I mean, they swatch really nice. They're not as like super creamy metallic as some of the other ones that I have, but like every single one of them in here. So they're sheer, skimpy, and lush. All three of them are so, so beautiful. And the matte swatch really, really nicely too. So definitely hanging on to this one. Alrighty, let's do this one right here. This is the JCat Dia de Noche eyeshadow palette. They have a couple of options and I think they're all considered like Dia de Noche. Yeah, I think they have one, maybe two other options, but here's this one. This is the one that I got. I really like this eyeshadow palette, but I might also consider depotting this one too. One of the biggest things when it comes to the depottings is I think it's really fun to have all of my matte eyeshadows in one and kind of have them like tone and color coded, and then have all my like shimmers in one or glitters in one or metallics in one, and a similar thing, have them all kind of like tone and color coded too. So maybe let's swatch it up and see how we feel. Here is this one swatched. The thing that I find so fun about this one is they put all the shades on top here are matte, and then everything else below there is a metallic. And I think the metallics are beautiful in here. Yeah, I think this is one that I might consider to depot. There are maybe like a couple in here that I maybe would get rid of. I like these two shades here, nice and unique. I'll have to check and see what I've got for like matte blue options. I probably have another brown like this and another eyeshadow palette. And then some of these glitter metallics are so unique. A couple of them are similar to other ones that I might have, but I just want to go through this one separately and try to maybe just hold on to the ones that are unique and that I don't have. So I'm going to set this off to the side. It's me again. I thought I would jump in at the end of the video here again, just to remind you that this is a part 1 and there will be a part 2 of the eyeshadow declutter here as well. I hope you guys have enjoyed what you've seen so far. Definitely a lot of eyeshadow to go through. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed the video, I would love for you guys to give the video a big thumbs up. I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. Feel free to hit that subscribe button, notification bell, so you guys can be notified of any future posts. And again, stay tuned for part 2. And I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful day. And I'll see you in that part 2. Bye.